Thanks, everybody. Thank you so much. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. It is my greatest fear, probably, failing at life in the big city and having to move back home with my parents. It's also the story of our next guest's film. In Standing Up, Falling Down, Ben Schwartz plays a failed stand-up comedian who moves back home and befriends a local dermatologist, played by Billy Crystal. Everybody, please welcome Ben Schwartz and Matt Ratner.
Hey. The camera can't see. There are over 1,000 people here today.
It is a huge gathering.
This is insane. I can't believe for our little movie, 1,000 people would show up.
Earlier this week, we had a K-pop group, and that was nothing compared to who just showed up for
So we did want to talk about, we're actually starting a K-pop group.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's very exciting.
Are you guys going to be in it, or are you guys going to be the managers?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Got it. That's good.
Nice.
I got it.
Great shot. That's the only picture you've shown so far.
I don't think this is the official poster of the movie, is it? But I really like it.
No, I'd love to know what the poster is. Do you have an official poster?
Yeah, I think it's the one you sent me of you and Billy at the Clips game.
Oh, great. Yeah, just a selfie, I guess we're using. This is an independent film.
Let's talk about how this independent film got started. You've produced a number of independent films, and this is this your first feature that you were directing?
Yes.
And has that always been kind of the dream for you?
Yeah, that's always been where I wanted to end up. I studied theater back forever ago, and then sort of took a weird turn, ended up working in politics and government for a while, then ended up in LA producing independent film and sort of perpetually looking for the one to direct and found
How did you come across this one?
Great question, Ricky.
Very good question. Actually, the
First
movie. Can we just?
Yeah.
The first movie I ever produced actually premiered at Tribeca in 2014. It was a movie called Match with Patrick Stewart, and through that I met two guys who would be producing partners with me on this: Chris Mangano and Rick Rosenthal. Chris sent me the script, and it's very rare when you read a script and you don't want to wait till the next day to call about it. You want to call right away. And I read it, I put it down, and I said, I need to make this movie.
What was it about this script that you loved?
Hard-hitting journalism, very nice.
I think it was.
You want to talk about the Mueller report? Is that what's going on?
No, I just love the way you're hitting him.
So Joe Biden, it is. What you're really looking for. It sounds like a sort of cliched answer, but it's a story that you don't want to tell, a story that you need to tell. And when you direct a movie, it's 2 years of your life, and it had to be something that I felt like was in my wheelhouse creatively and spoke to me, on a personal level. And I think a lot of the films, things that the film deals with in terms of the nature of regret and the choices you make, and is there always such a thing as a second chance, or sometimes sort of cuts too deep. All those things really spoke to me personally.
And were you a fan of Ben prior to this? How did you know of his work?
Could not stand him.
Oh, wow.
No, of course I was familiar with his work and sort of his comedic genius. One of the things that was so striking to me about Ben when we first spoke and started talking about the script was just how serious he is about his craft, and that I just felt like he had a dramatic ability that this part really needed, in addition to obviously the comedic skills. And there are very few people I think who can pull off both. And I think Ben did it beautifully.
I agree with you completely. I've had Ben on the stage a number of times, I think, mostly for comedy, sometimes for voice work, one for an action comedy. And I've always loved your work, going back to Parks and Rec.
You've always been very kind.
Well, that's my job.
Yeah, that's true.
But I do.
It'd be weird if you're like, hate you, hate the movie.
So what happened?
What'd you buy for groceries this morning?
No, I love your work, and you're one of those types of people who's extremely charismatic and very witty and off the cuff, but all of that usually means to me that there's a lot more and that you can pull off even more. And I feel like, no, I haven't really seen you, with the exception of maybe Lynn Shelton in the film that you did with her
baby.
Jay, really got the chance to pull some of that off, and it's great to see you do that in a leading role here.
Yeah, it was very exciting. One of the big reasons for doing the movie, well, first of all, to do anything with Billy Crystal is, when they gave me the script, and Matt and Peter who wrote it, and when they said this is Billy Crystal's going to be, it'll be you two guys, it's a dream come true. I've watched all of his films. I've watched him host the Oscars 1,000 times. Look up to him as a stand-up comic. And so it was just, so exciting. I don't remember your question because I got lost in how good my sentence was. So like,
I don't think I had a question. I was just complimenting
Oh,
you
okay,
and saying that I was excited to watch you do more
Baseless flattery.
dramatic work.
okay. Oh yes. So this was the other big thing was when I read the script, it was a real opportunity for me to have. It's a dramatic spine with funny moments in it, but the movie plays as like a drama, right? It's like a dramedy.
Well, and it's one of the things that Ben and I talked about when we first started speaking about it was I know obviously the allure of working with somebody like Billy, especially for someone who came up in comedy and has so much respect for that. But there's the script's 102 pages, Ben's in 100 of them, and so this really was something I felt like
I have to talk. I talk a lot in it.
You talk a lot,
and I got bronchitis at the very beginning of the shoot. But you guys would never know. Thank you for caring. But you guys would never know. Someone in the front row goes, oh. And then someone in the 1000th back. Harrison Ford's in the audience. Barack
Unreal.
Obama's here.
I saw him on the list.
Yeah, I don't know.
there were
He's
people.
a big fan of, I think he thinks it's a billiards movie. He saw the poster and he's like, I'm a really big fan of this. So we'll see. I'm excited.
This is an unauthorized Rounders sequel.
Yeah. I one time asked Ricky what his favorite movie was on one of these interviews,
Oh,
and
you
he
remember
freaked
that.
out, and he did like the most obscure independent film of all time that nobody's ever
I was
heard
like,
of.
when you asked that, I was in my mind begging you not to ask me that because the only thing I would be able to pull out was some sort of
Something
weird,
that we'll all
obscure
hate you
movie.
for. Yeah.
That was going to be so pretentious, and I felt horrible because you were here for an action comedy, and everybody here was, or maybe you were even here for DuckTales.
Hey, come on, man.
was
Let's
like-
not crap on
I love DuckTales. I'm not crapping on it, but to have like the audience here for DuckTales and me on stage being like, Mike Lee's naked.
Oh, yeah,
It's like
that's
a
exactly
weird
what he did.
thing to say.
Yeah.
Were you nervous at all being the lead, being number one on the call sheet and having to do more dramatic scenes?
It was. I was very excited by it. The thing when you're number one on the call sheet is for me. It's like, okay, can I stay healthy? Can I get enough sleep? Because that's like, and also to memorize your lines. There's all these things you kind of like don't think about. But like after doing House of Lies and being with Cheadle and seeing how he works and stuff like that, you kind of learn like, okay, pace yourself and know how many days you got going. But I was more really excited that like you get to see all these small choices that Matt and I make throughout the whole film, and then when you watch the movie, you're like, oh, all these little things really pay off. Now that you have an arc of 100, 90 minutes as opposed to whatever.
What do you mean by small choices? Do you mean like things on set when you're about to shoot a scene, like what your character is going to be doing in that moment and how that will pay off later?
Yes, especially because you're not. Many times when you're playing a supporting character, if you're a guest star in a show, you can concentrate on the scene or maybe another scene that's in that spot. But when you're here, you're thinking about the entire arc. Like let's say my character at the beginning, like in this, he goes back home, and you know what I mean. He's like depressed, and slowly each scene, because you don't shoot in order, you have to kind of find your way and find your rhythm. So when it comes together as like a full 90-minute movie, as opposed to if you're doing a couple things, you're just being the funniest person you could be. You're trying to like do like bring comedy or joy to that scene. This one is like, oh, let's really play with all the things that when you watch the movie, you could see in the small little things I'm doing, how I'm reacting to the moments. And I mean, Matt. It's Matt, right? Yeah, and Matt as the director. Also, Peter Hoare. If we could talk about the writer, Peter Hoare, for a bit. I love him. I hope he's watching this. If not, surely a family member is.
One of the things that what was really pivoting on Peter, one of the things that was really lovely about this is, Peter the writer, Billy, Ben, myself.
And Peter the Rabbit. Keep going.
And Peter the Rabbit. Peter Rabbit. I don't think there's a the.
I don't know.
But we really spent a good deal of time, talking character, talking about the various arcs in the film. And so it was invaluable not only because it, I think, ultimately made the script better, but it was invaluable because it let us have a level of trust and comfort with each other the day we started shooting. And, independent films you don't get, it's not like we had 2 weeks of rehearsal time. We really hit the ground running. And so for the four of us to really all, like and trust and respect each other on day one was hugely, hugely beneficial.
I feel like the failure goes home and has to live with his parents is in some ways a trope, and we see that story a lot. But so often when we see it, there are very clear villains. There's the high school bully or something who's a bully now, or there's something that makes the story much more, I think, easier to tell and sometimes lazy. And you didn't take any of those paths here. You kept everybody very likable, and everybody had their own reasons for where they were in life, but nobody was in any way attacking somebody just to do it or just to move the story forward. It's a compliment, but I'm also curious if you ever found that kind of hard to do, because we always, as writers, sort of like lean back on what we know will work and get us out of a jam a little bit quicker. Did you ever find yourself in that position?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was really important to me because I think, life is messy, and, in life there aren't, Thanos isn't wandering around the streets of New York, right? There aren't villains that are that.
What?
But even then, not to interrupt, but even then, Thanos we think is the one villain because it's the big movie. But even in all of the smaller movies, there is a Thanos all the time, and it's totally unrealistic because rarely is there a Thanos in anyone's life.
And it was really important. I think the place that was most important for me was also some of the other casting. Nate Cordray, who plays Billy's son in the film, who's terrific in it. And it was really important that the entire cast understand that this was a movie without clear-cut villains. It's really a movie about these two people, but how do you then sustain dramatic tension throughout a 91-minute runtime with a film that's really about the relationship between these two guys? And the way you do it is you get these two guys who are so compelling and dynamic together that it helps you sustain the narrative.
I would also argue that it's not about just those two guys. You do a
Oh,
great
wow.
job.
I guess you're wrong, Matt. Keep going, Ricky.
Well, you do a great job of giving everybody their due in the film. Everybody has an arc.
Well, and one of the things we talked about actually in the casting process was
Leaving
how
Ben out.
It just
See if he can handle it.
See how
I just like doing bits on the side. I love hearing you talk. This is his baby. This is his movie. He worked on this for so long. He deserves all of it.
Well, not quite, but one of the things that
You're right. I'm great in it.
But one of the things that was important that we do see in a lot of indies, I think, is it's if Ben's acting as talented as Ben is, if he doesn't have a good sparring partner, those scenes don't work. So being able to get somebody like Grace Gummer to play his sister, someone like Eloise Mumford, people whose work I've respected for a long, long time, it's I think part of what lets us do it, and making sure those are all fully realized characters. Yeah. So it's not I think there's an interesting story and movie to tell about 1 through 12 on the call sheet.
What was it like for you working with Billy?
Great question.
Thank you.
Really hard-hitting journalism. You could put down your mic.
I don't even bring the questions on stage. They're just up here, man.
I can't believe you
It's
don't do that,
unreal.
by the way.
Oh, is that real, or are you making?
Well, you have them written on your shoes. That's why you're going there. It was incredible. It was a joy of joys. One of the fun things that we were able to do in independent movies, I mean, we're like changing our outfits in restaurants. We're like everything is there. This is a very inexpensive, compared to we just talked about Avengers Endgame. But it's like in indie movies, you really have to use every part of the buffalo. So where everything is on the fly. We're doing things as quick as we can to make the days and stuff like that. And so with someone like Billy, who's been in he's been in huge movies, and and he plays a monster in Monsters Inc. for God's sake. But it's like. To see someone like him fully grasp it and fully love the idea of let's make an indie movie, let's go for it, let's really find moments. And we would try to find time for us, and if Peter was around, to go through the scenes and find any little moment we could add to or embellish or kind of rework the scenes on the fly, because you really don't have rehearsal time really. So when you watch this movie, my hope is that you'll just it really feels like two lived-in characters, two people that have been in that space. The scenes feel like us talking as opposed to structured lines like this and look this way, because we really we made a conscious effort to make it feel like you're really just seeing, you just have a bird's eye view of these two people's lives.
Yeah, you don't actually see Billy in movies like this that often. I actually don't think he works that often.
He's so good in this movie. It's a dramatic role that he's also funny in it, but he plays it so beautifully and so so small. You know what I mean? All of his choices are just so real and lovely. I really think people will really connect with his character.
I think even his big moment, without spoiling anything, his really big moment in the film, he holds it back as much as possible. It's really beautiful. Also, one thing I noticed in that final scene, and I'm sure you freaked out in the editing room and kind of loved it, was the leaf.
Yes. Yeah, you look, sometimes they're happy accidents. And I think, one of the things that for me, directing is about creating a space where sort of serendipitous events can occur and you can take advantage of them. And so one of the things we were so fortunate about was we did, for an indie, we were able, yes, there were long days, but we were able to have the time where Billy came up with something, if Ben came up with something, we could try it. I don't think there was anything on set where we had something we wanted to try and we couldn't because we ran out of time. And so moments like the little moment you're talking about, it's like, God, I hope we were rolling on that. And thankfully we were.
The moment they're talking about is a leaf is flying by and then a shark comes out of the ocean and eats the leaf, lands on the shore and goes, that was tasty, and then goes right back in.
We've talked about spoilers.
All right, we're not supposed to talk about it, but they're just...
He goes, shark.
Shark, yeah, it's crazy. Shark, you look marvelous.
Ben, I have to know, how are things going with Sonic the Hedgehog?
Sonic is going great.
Okay, great.
It's fantastic. It is really going great. I mean, we're going to see a trailer, hopefully soon, and then I don't know when it comes out, but I'm hoping soon. But it's great. I've been doing the VO for. I'm lucky enough to have seen the whole film many times because the film is filmed, and then I do my VO for Sonic, and we do it many times and try new stuff. Jeff Fowler, who's the director, is doing an incredible job. I think it's going to be great, and Jim Carrey is so funny in this movie. I mean, he's so funny in so many things, but he's so funny in this movie. It just like makes my childish heart smile.
Has it been one of those situations where you're going in, and then they're doing new animation, and then you're redoing VO and doing different VO as
Yeah,
well?
well, I'll go in, and the different versions of animation, or sometimes it's just like a doll we used on set or something like that, and then slowly it's turning into what you're going to see, and so I get to see the evolution of all the different stages before it turns into the Sonic that everybody gets to see in the movie. So I'm like kind of watching them all. But they try stuff out, they view it for people, and then if they want to tweak some stuff, it's a little bit easier because I'm a voiceover. You don't have to reshoot anything. I can give you a new line or a new performance, and so it's been really fun. I cannot tell you. And also Neil Moritz, who's done all the Fast and the Furious, and Tim Miller, who did Deadpool, and like we're in very, very good hands. I'm very excited for people to see the movie.
Do you get to improvise it? Because I know you're.
Yeah, I get to play a little bit because at the beginning stages, before they animate my mouth, we get to we play a ton. Jeff and I play and think of lines a ton. Yeah.
And speaking of that, you play a stand-up.
Speaking of Sonic the Hedgehog, yeah.
Speaking of improvisation,
yes,
you mostly are an improviser. In this, you play a stand-up. How much stand-up have you actually have you done?
Great question, Ricky.
Thanks so much.
I actually started by doing stand-up, and I've only done it 12
you started
times.
doing stand-up.
Yes. So when I used to freelance jokes for David Letterman, who was a talk show host. Everybody knows that, right? Do you know that? Have you heard of David Letterman? Okay. All right. So he was a talk show host, and I used to freelance monologue jokes for him. So I used to write jokes all the time, and I started in stand-up, and it's very difficult. Stand-up is hard and lonely. When you bomb, you're by yourself, and when you succeed, it's still kind of lonely, like really exciting. You're like, I really enjoyed the idea of being collaborative with improv and sketch, and like people like Hot Sauce, and now I do shows with Thomas Middleditch all over the world. So it's like,
Oh, that's right. You guys are on tour right now, right?
yeah,
Or
we did Carnegie Hall, we did the Chicago. Thanks, man. We did the Chicago Theater. We're gonna keep going. Hopefully, people keep caring about it.
If you haven't, they do long form improv, and you absolutely must find a time to see it because it is hysterical. And
It's very fun.
Watching the two of them work together, you just you see the wheels turning and the sparks flying. And next time, do you know when you're in New York next?
I think we're gonna perform on the top of the Empire State Building on Valentine's Day.
So Valentine's Day, you can
You
get
guys
your
wanna
tickets
come?
online. All 1,000 people
the tippy
should
top.
go.
The tippy top.
Yeah, I'm talking about the spear. Yeah, the top of the spear. The top of the spear saline.
On the
Yeah,
tail.
yeah,
And
all
the
that
last
stuff.
performance.
Yeah, that'll be the last one, but it'll be great.
What was the most challenging part of directing this movie?
Working with Ben Schwartz.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I think
What was the most challenging part?
it's a good question.
You got to learn how to ask the
It's
question.
a good question. I think stepping right into first of all, the fact that it was such a serious atmosphere on set, as you can tell, we were all really, had no fun. But because of Billy's schedule, we ended up actually shooting all of Billy's stuff first. Mm-hmm. So we shot non-sequentially, which is typical for a film, but it did mean that, as someone with a long producing background who'd never directed a feature film before, my first day directing was a really important scene between Billy and Ben. And I think sort of learning to turn off my producer brain and delegate the things that the fires normally I would be putting out, I had to let other people put out because I didn't have the bandwidth. And so really making sure that my focus stayed.
Right. Don't ask the questions that you would normally be asking as a producer because it could get in the way of your ability.
And really making sure that my focus stayed on working with the actors, which A is what I love, but B is, is what I need to be doing that nobody else can be doing. And so making sure that I sort of turned off those parts of my brain.
How hard was it for you as a producer to get that beautiful crane shot?
So the producer Matt and director Matt had a lot of very animated conversations with each other. But I actually think it's a huge help because I know what we're giving up, and I can understand on the producing side of it. There's that sort of, I'll butcher it, but George R.R. Martin talks about how when he originally wanted to make a film version of Game of Thrones, he was told by someone in Hollywood basically, you can have 1,000-person army or dragons, but you can't have 1,000-person army and dragons. And filmmaking's about making choices, and I think something like the crane shot you're talking about, which we normally would not have the bandwidth for that in this kind of movie, because of where it occurs, I felt like it was important and worth sacrificing, on some other things.
It was really nice, this shot.
Thank you.
You guys have a crane shot too. Do you want to show that jib? Let's see that. Let's go from top. Okay, now let's really lean into this jib. Ready? And here we go. Here's a jib shot.
Oh, wow. They actually cut to it.
Really
That's
getting
amazing.
close. Really use it. Get over that 1,000-person crowd. Okay, we got to stay wide. We can't get in close. Okay. All right, we'll call it a jib and not a... Okay, here
there
we
it
go.
goes. Now it's getting
Until
in
it's
there.
uncomfortable. Until you can't go... Yep.
Just keep
Show
going.
my pores. Show my imperfections. Yeah, this is very good. Until nobody's watching anymore. That's very nice. All right, good.
Ben, what is the big difference for you as an actor doing with comedy, between comedy and drama? I mean, there's the obvious differences, laughter versus crying or whatever. But
Sure.
for you as an actor, what are the big differences?
But that's
on set?
I think what you're saying is exactly is interesting, because for me, doing comedy, when I know I've succeeded is when I see the crew laughing, or I see the people I'm acting with laughing. And when you're doing drama, you can't look at someone and then be like, you know what I mean? So it's a different feeling, and especially in this, when there's like real emotional stakes for my character and real things happen and bad things happen. So
also the scenes, those emotional stakes are not paid off in like huge, teary,
Right.
confessions of any kind.
Right.
They're very small moments that,
Yes.
you would not really get a crew member being like, you got me.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a matter of checking with the director, checking with Billy, but to see like we would do that. Billy and I would be like, he'll be like, yeah, and I'm like, yeah, and same with me. I was like, yeah, you happy with what I just did? And he'd be like, and so the director being happy, and then for Billy Crystal to say that I did something right is, it's the ultimate. So, but you're right, it's a big thing. But I love doing drama. Comedy has become, nothing's ever easy, but it's become a little bit more second nature. I have my 10,000 hours in comedy. So it's like to try to build up my muscles, to try to get better always at other aspects of the field. So that's why I'm always drawn to these dramatic roles and stuff like that.
What's the hardest part of doing drama for you?
For me,
Yeah.
nude scenes.
Yeah.
No,
There's so many in this
I
movie.
am constantly naked in this film. No, I'm actually never naked in this film, and that's why people should see it.
So you haven't seen the final cut?
I haven't seen the final cut. No. What would you say? Would you say what's my favorite Jurassic Park movie?
What's your biggest fear about doing?
Huh?
What is your favorite Jurassic Park?
first
movie?
one.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear when it comes to doing drama?
Oh, it's my biggest fear comes from there's this. We can't really talk about what happens, but there's a scene where I have to get emotional, right? And in my head, when I get emotional in real life, unless I'm with my family or with people that are very close to me, I don't really cry. You know what I mean? But it's like someone who is emotional and like in front of the scene happens in front of people he doesn't know, and he wants to try to hold it in a bit. So it's like the idea of literally making myself cry and then making myself not try to cry, because in my head the character would not let everybody see him do this. So it's like those little things to make them feel like realistic instead of being like, ah! You know what I mean? It's more like you see tears in my eyes and you see me like try to make it so nobody could see that I'm tearing up. So, but those scenes, like anytime I'm in a dramatic film where it's like, this is the scene where you like confess everything. This is the scene where you break down. This is the scene where someone passes away and you gotta. Those are the ones that I read many, many times, and I try to get them so down in my head that I don't have to think about the words at all, and you're just really trying to find yourself feeling those emotions. In comedy, it's oftentimes finding the joke and surfing the wave. So for that, those are the ones that I really find like, I get excited by those days. And you get a little bit nervous, and then when you do a take or two, that you're like, "Oh, I'm good, we have it." Then it's like, and that scene that we were emotional, we had pretty early on, and we were really excited with it. So, but those are the ones that I look forward to the most. Or I'm a little bit nervous about, like the ones that have to be really like, all right, this is the moment that in other films sometimes it's like, no, let's see if you can figure out a way to do it.
Well, I think, when you have something like this where you have a really good script and a good director, those things can kind of carry you as well.
Yeah.
Especially if you've rehearsed and memorized all the words, the writing can kind of carry you to the place that you need to
Yes,
go.
good
or at
writing
least help
always-
register what's happening in the
Yes,
story.
good writing makes everything.
But when you do something like with Lynn Shelton in that movie, which I think is largely improvised.
That one was
movie.
not as largely
Not
improvised.
as largely as improvised.
No, but
as-
most of hers are. The next
Yeah.
one she did with Jillian was more improvised. But Yes, there's sometimes, but I love the idea of improvising and knowing. Mostly, I don't know if you got 1,000 people here have done improv, but the idea is like saying yes and to an idea, like something happening and then adding to it and being in the moment. The biggest thing is being in the moment and reacting. And acting is such a big part of that. So even when you're improvising in a dramatic way, which we did in this movie, it's literally just like letting yourself get to that, like what, you know what I mean, whatever emotion you're trying to hear, and just go back and forth. And it's the same type of game, just a different, part of your heart.
Well, and
Crane shot in.
I do think it's letting yourself be open and honest and letting yourself be emotional and sort of opening yourself up to that. And both Billy and Ben did that in a way that was, really remarkable to get to work with.
And you said 10 out of 10. You said this is your favorite movie you've ever seen in your entire life.
Well, outside of Mike Lee's Naked, yes, my favorite movie.
Yeah, this is your 10 out of 10 you gave it. 10 out of 10 Rickies, you call them.
Ricks, actually. Ricks.
Ricks.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 Ricks.
10 out of 10 Ricks.
We have a question coming in from Twitter. It's for Ben. I love the earliest...
Hey, a Mega Man icon. Why not? Profile pic. I love it. That's a blue cartoon character. I'll do it. Fine. I'll play him.
I love the earliest show. It's one of my favorite things you've done. Do you plan on writing and directing any new projects in the immediate future?
I love when anybody watches the earliest show. The earliest show is something that I directed and wrote and improvised with Lauren Lapkus, who's a genius, and Joe Hartzler. I would love to.
That was the fake morning show that you guys
It is.
did. It was amazing.
And then,
funny.
Apple's making a real version of our fake morning show, which I'm excited to see. But so I loved it. I don't know. Do you plan on writing and directing any new projects in the immediate future? There is an indie movie that I wrote and that I might direct, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about. But it looks like someone wants to maybe make it, so we'll see.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I
hesitate to congratulate you because those things generally can
the whole movie's about you. It's very awkward. Yeah, you never know. Like, and you especially know from doing independent movies for so long. You never know. But I wrote a lot of movies for studios for a while. I wrote Paramount, and I wrote 2 for Universal. I wrote one for Good Universe. I did all that, and then I was like, I really want to write one I just want to write one just to write one, something that's fun. And I wrote it. We'll see if it ever gets made. But people seem to like it. We'll see what happens.
Wait, so you wrote a number of movies for studios?
Yes.
Did any of those get
I'm
made?
so happy you asked. No, no, but I bet.
But I don't ask that. I don't ask that to poke fun or to dig or
No,
anything.
I
That's just like a
understand,
real
Just
story
like
of
bring me
people.
down a notch, make me feel.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. No, I agree.
Really up here? I wanted you down here.
There's also like a misconception. People don't know that I feel very fortunate that I've sold 4 books and I've written. I think I've sold 4 or 5 movies. And it's not unheard of. It's like almost par for the course that you write all these movies and they just don't get made.
It's literally making a living in Los Angeles
that's
for
what
screenwriters.
being a writer. And then someone's like, "You want to do? Do you have an idea for like this?" And I go, "The earliest show. This is what it is. This is 6 episodes. This is what it is." And they go, "Great, do it." I'm like, "What? That's so great and easy." You know what I mean? So it's a very interesting thing. But the more money at stake when you're writing a movie for studios and these budgets get bigger, the harder it is for people to be like, "Yes, okay, give them all the money. Let's do it." I don't get all the money, but let's make the movie. When you make a movie like this, you get to take these scripts. Like if you look at our movie Standing Up, Falling Down, you get to see a script that's like real and human and really well written. And it's like someone like Matt and Rick and all the people that you played with are like, let's make this movie. This is interesting. That's why festivals like this are awesome. It's so important. Tribeca Film Festival, all those things are, I think, really important because it allows a lot of creators and allows a lot of people that may not be able to make those $100 million ones to really show what they can do and show off some people. And then hopefully get people like Billy Crystal to be in your movie.
I think we have some questions from the audience. Who's a question? Right here.
Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
Hey, how are you? How is everything?
Good, yourself?
Good. Thank you very much.
So people know you a lot from like your improv thing, and I know you're talking with Conan on his podcast that you and Thomas love doing.
How crazy is it that Conan has a podcast? He's the best. I think he's like a god. I love Conan
It's a great
O'Brien.
podcast.
So the fact that I got to be a guest on it and talk to him like a human blew my mind.
It's pretty awesome. So a lot of your work does have some improvisational style to it. I don't know if like in Happy Anniversary there was like some improv there, but
You're good. You're a professional question giver. I could tell.
Do you look for jobs where you could improv a little, even if it's a dramatic role, some room for space like that?
Great question. What's your name?
Jonathan.
Jonathan. I'm Ben. Lovely to meet you. I sometimes in comedies, if there's room to improv, I'm sure before I talk, something I do in auditions or when I get a movie is, hey, I just want to know, am I allowed to play? Just tell me if I'm allowed to play, because if not, I'll memorize this stuff and we'll do it, because I've done movies like that. And then the other time, oftentimes I find, maybe 80% of the time, the director's like, we would love for you to play. One of the reasons we have you here so you can play a little bit and we can find these moments. So I don't hunt them out just to be improv, but I will always ask. And then if they're like, go, that's the best. In Parks, there was always a take that's called a fun run, which is, we got it, we're good, do whatever you want. And so we would go crazy. And a bunch of my stuff that was the crazy takes end up in the show. Happy anniversary, great reference.
Try.
One more.
Thank you very much. Only one more, oh no. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing very well. What's your name?
I'm Alex.
Hey, Alex, I'm Ben, that's Matt.
Nice to meet you.
That's Rick, I guess.
No, Ricky, it's just Ricks,
The Ricks.
when it's my ratings.
currency.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly.
I was just going to ask if shooting
not think it
hoops
was
with Detlef Shrimp was one of the highlights of your career.
One of the highlights of my career. Absolutely.
The highlight?
No, well, listen, I'll say one of my favorite things that happened. You have a click phone? You have a click thing? Oh, I wish there was a camera that could catch that. You can't, but just trust me, it's weird.
They got it.
They got it. We got another camera over here. Hey, congrats on the 4th camera, guys. Yes, it was a joy because I'm a huge NBA basketball fan, and growing up, the 90s for me was like, I just watched every minute of every day. So I was a fan of Detlef Shrimp, and there was literally a scene where Detlef Shrimp throws me an alley-oop while Roy Hibbert throws me in the air, and it was one of the happiest times in my life, truly. And the playoffs this year are great. I don't know if you care about basketball, but the playoffs are great this year.
Detlef's my dad, so yeah.
Is that true?
No.
Oh, that would have made me so happy. I was like, you don't have an accent at all.
What?
How many people can say that Detlef is their father? Probably very few. One more question,
One of those
Ricky?
weird gestures, like, why would you lie to us? I believed you right away.
Are we allowed to do one more question or no? What's your name?
Adam.
Adam, I'm Ben. That's Matt. That's Rick Star.
I was always curious because I thought that in the first season that Della Duck was, gone.
Yes.
But after seeing the final season from season 1, I realized that she was still alive in the moon. But it was always wondering. But in season 2 and final, are they gonna make an episode like a 1-hour special where the boys and Scrooge and Donald go to the space and find Della?
You were asking an incredible question.
Della.
And by the way, your question is so good that I can't answer it because it's a great question. But I think what you're saying is right. You introduced this great character of Della, right? And she's stuck on the moon, right? And then this is that character has more episodes. I'm allowed to say that. And what you're asking is great because that's what we wanted all the audience members to be like, oh, when is this gonna? Yeah, so. I'll make you a 1-hour special. I'll do it for you. I like it. That's a great question, though.
Guys, I love the film. Congratulations. It's called Standing Up, Falling Down. It's at the Tribeca Film Festival right now.
Yeah, right now, and we still do have tickets for next weekend. We have screenings Saturday and Sunday. Going to Tribeca Film.
Well, tell them
and you
how
can
we
buy
sold out all the other screenings.
And of course, our first 3 screenings are
They're already sold out.
Thousands
You know
of people.
what I mean?
Thousands
Yeah,
and
yeah.
thousands of people.
Thousands of people. But there are some tickets if you want to see what happens to this cue ball in this scene.
What does happen to this cue ball?
By the
Spoilers.
way, I don't want to tell you.
The whole movie is just about an argument over this cue ball.
You know the
Are
plastic the bag from American Beauty? This is our take on
Yeah.
that. It's just the cue ball for the whole
The
movie.
entire movie, literally what happens at the very end of our movie is something crazy happens and all of a sudden the cue ball wakes up and it was all a dream. It was a cue ball's dream, yeah. And the cue ball's like, oh, that's so crazy that I don't dream about other balls. I dream about human beings.
And then I have like really subtle dreams
Yes,
about like
very
human
91-minute
behavior.
dreams. 91-minute dreams about real life
Small
circumstances.
conflicts. And
Yeah,
human
yeah.
beings.
And the cue ball is voiced by Groot, Vin Diesel.
What's weird is that was all, Vin Diesel was where I was going for the cue ball.
Oh,
too.
good. Yeah, Vin Diesel.
Ben Schwartz, Matt Ratner. Give him a round of applause, everybody.